everyone. It is Brigid from the Art of Grace Authors Hub, and I am here today to bring you another Authors in the Spotlight. Thank you to MyTimeTV.live and Adaire Palmer, and thank you to the authors who are joining us today from the beautiful book, Hear Her Roar, Successful Women Who Have Experienced Domestic Abuse. A hard book to write, a difficult book to contribute to, and yet one that is so necessary, unfortunately, so necessary in this world. Today we have a few people who are going to join us, and the first person I would like to join us, I just want to read from the book. I did have it marked, and I just quickly had to grab my charger, realizing that I wasn't plugged in. So here we go. Kiziah Jay is no stranger to adversity and has experienced considerable hardships, including domestic violence, rape, traumatic childhood, a mother who repeatedly self-harmed and suffered from borderline personality disorder, her father committing suicide, eating disorders and body dysmorphia, depression, and working as a prostitute for almost 4 years. Kiziah Jay intuitively always knew she would use her experiences to impact the lives of others one day, and tells how this thought gave her strength in her darkest hours. Her never give up attitude has been a catalyst for her drive and success to being deeply committed to helping women who are lost in their relationships and reclaim their power and identity and ultimately feel empowered themselves. Kiziah Jay is a passionately fierce woman who cares deeply for humanity and is creating impact on a global scale through her work. And I'd like to welcome Kiziah to join us as I just read a little extract from her actual book. Hello, Kiziah. We are matched today. Look at us. We're, colour coordinated.
I know.
It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up to talk about this difficult subject to talk about and for sharing your story in the book. I just want to read a small extract from your book and take it from there.
Yeah.
Kiziah Jay's chapter is titled Breaking Silence. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. As I sat there quietly, taking in her beauty, I noticed the blanket she was eating, my baby brother, draped over her bump. At around 6 years old, my mummy was my whole world. I loved my daddy too. He was big and strong and he loved plants. There was something else, something which made me scared of him. Sometimes he would get very mad and hurt my mum. Sometimes he would upend the dinner table with our meals mummy had made for us, and food would go everywhere. Plates smashed, crying, screaming. Then mummy would send us to our rooms to play so she could clean up the mess. Kiziah, it is really hard as a child to fathom what is occurring when you love these people and one of them is acting this way to another. This obviously impacted your life in more ways than one, but also your mum's life in that, being diagnosed with personality disorder. Yeah. And it is something that outsiders just can't understand. How would you describe this to somebody who is looking in from the outside?
From a child's perspective?
Yeah.
I mean, I was really, really young then, when that was going on, but it is, yeah, you're right. You feel like you don't have anyone, like you've just got yourself, because I remember I just intuitively took on the role as my mum's caretaker because as a young girl, I seen that she was this helpless woman that was just abused. And so I took on the role as being her caretaker as a little girl, and in whatever way that that came about. So I had to be the strong one and not talk about things that were bothering me or or my struggles or fears or anything like that. Not because I wasn't allowed to, just because that's the role that I automatically took on after having witnessed these things as a little girl.
Yeah, and it's into your adulthood, you have then experienced things that you witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's genetics, or do you think that that was because it was learned behavior?
No, I think a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both.
Yeah. And do you think that your choices were then affected by what you saw and witnessed?
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, I think that our environment plays a huge part in in forming our beliefs and our thought patterns and our habits, and it's not an excuse for the way that we behave, of course. However, it's like monkey see, monkey do, isn't it? And when we grow up in certain environments, unfortunately, we take on those learning behaviors, believing that that's how a relationship is. That's a normal relationship, or this is how I regulate my emotions by overdosing or self-harming. It is all learned and contributed to the way that we adult.
I would agree with you. And I was just bringing up the Amazon Live channel while I was looking down there. So you can pop on over to Amazon and grab a copy of the book Hear Her Roar and read all of Kiziah's story along with those who are joining us here today. You are now helping other women who have suffered trauma in their life and go into adult working industry.
Yep.
Can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what is that like to actually work with those women?
It's so funny because I still remember, I still feel it. It's like it was yesterday. I remember the time when I was in the brothel and I was sitting in the girls' room and I was chatting to another girl and she was crying and having a hard time, and I just felt from then on in that one day I'm going to help these women. I don't know how I was going to, didn't know how I was going to do it at the time, but a few years ago, it got to a point where it was keeping me up at night, and I couldn't not do it. Before that, I was really scared about the backlash and being judged and coming out and sharing my story, but it got to the point where I was only concerned about, like, the impact was more important to me than any judgment that I might receive. And it's so rewarding. These women are just like you and I, and there's so much stigma attached to women in the adult industry, just like women who have been through domestic violence. It's all kind of interrelated in some shape or form, isn't it? And it's really important for me to help them have a voice and to be the change that we need to lessen the judgment and stigma and normalize us having these conversations, these difficult conversations that otherwise would be, taboo. And yeah.
I think that that's really important too. We are talking here about domestic abuse and you're talking about the adult industry. Like, you've gone head on into topics that people don't like to talk about. And I think that it's important that we do talk about these, because without education, we can't move forward.
Yeah.
Just going back to the book, you shared a story in here about your childhood and experienced it yourself in adulthood. What would you say to somebody who is actually, they might be watching this and thinking, well, this is my life in a domestic abuse situation and I witnessed it as a child? What would be your first step for them?
Reach out to somebody. Reach out to someone that you trust. I think that is so important, to have someone that you can trust and speak to. I mean, there's so many women out there who are experiencing domestic violence in some shape or another, and they are led to believe that it is not that bad, or it is not domestic violence, or you're just too sensitive. And I think having a support person is so important, because you can also gain their perspective. Sometimes our judgment can be really clouded when we're in it, and we're not seeing what it is really appears to be. So first step, reach out to someone, and and accept help. Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly with you with that. Do they need to have some sort of is, because a lot of people say the saying, why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you leave sooner? Why did you allow this to happen to you? Those things aren't helpful. What is helpful for a woman in your eyes as to, how could she plan for this to leave?
Yeah, I think that, those comments are really not helpful. And if you're going to be a support person for someone, if there's someone that you know, or just even if you don't know them and they come to you, just listen with no judgment, and just show them compassion, because it's probably taken them a lot of gutso to even come to you and speak up. So yeah, it is so important to just hold them in that space, and just really just listen to them.
We have a comment over on the Amazon live. We have a comment coming up that you won't be able to see, Kiziah. I can read it out to you though. So courageous. Thank you for sharing your story, Kiziah. You will help so many to have a voice also. And to listen with no judgment is, it's a really important point that you raised there. It's something that I think is difficult for people who haven't experienced it or don't understand what it's like to have that other person have control over you, and allowing that opportunity for you to grow through that process by reaching out to someone. If you don't feel comfortable to reach out to somebody, reach out to one of the women in the book.
Yeah.
We are all more than happy to assist you to find what you need. You can grab your copy of the Kindle book or the paperback from Amazon. If you pop on over there now, we are on Amazon Live TV, which is awesome. And I'm here today talking with Kiziah Jay at the moment from Hear Her Roar, and some of the other authors. Kiziah, when you are attracting your clients, you are attracting a lot of clients that are actually in the adult industry but have experienced domestic abuse. And this wasn't an intention of yours, was it?
No. You seem to attract the people that are like you, or were like you, and I welcome it all. It's I just see the experiences that I've gone through as something that is really amazing, actually, because I'm able to help these women from a space that that I can truly understand, because I've actually walked in their shoes. I think it would be really hard for me to really understand and empathize with them if I hadn't. So
yeah, I love that. It's so important that women understand that you are a safe place to come to if you have experienced domestic abuse, and or you are working in the adult industry and you want to leave, or you've left and you're having difficulty with it's almost like a reintegration, I would imagine. Is that what it's like?
It is. I mean, leaving the adult industry is, it's not like leaving a regular job. It comes with a lot of, baggage. And so, it is like an integration back out into society.
Yeah. Yeah, you did talk about, with me, and I've seen you in another interview, you've talked about not having self-respect. You had very little respect for yourself, and your ability to get intimate was difficult, and because of working in the adult industry. But I think that it goes right back to watching how your father treated your mother too, in my opinion and in my experience, because I still have trouble with relationships, and I work on that continuously, and I imagine that you do the same.
Yes, yes, and of course, and also, my mum always had a very pig-headed view towards men, and so we repeatedly, she would talk about men in a very bad fashion my whole life, and so I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, but like even before I started adult work, I was promiscuous and, used to use my body as a means for attention or love. And yeah, it does stem from there. But I also, was raped and sexual assault and all that. So I think there's just a whole mixture of things that can really, affect the way that we, and I think that the adult industry was just the kind of like the icing on the cake for me in terms of intimacy and sex. So, still to this day, I work on it. I mean, it's improved, a lot. So, but it's something that I'm always aware of.
Yeah, I think that comes down to choices, doesn't it? You made choices based on what had happened to you, and now you choose to not let what happened to you or what you witnessed or what you experienced in your life to not be what the way that you live going forward. Is that right?
Yes, so right, and it's so that you said that because I remember even after having Jacob when I was 22, and I literally felt like I was hopeless. I had no choices in life. Like this was with the mentality. It was like I've been through all this stuff, and I have no support, and no one's going to help me. And I was always seeking to look for someone to rescue me. I was literally like scoping people out, like who is going to rescue me? And it was only until, I started on this journey to healing myself and my pain that, when I took responsibility, for my own choices in like, of course, there's bad stuff that happened to us, right? But we still get a choice how we move forward, how we live our life. And that's why I was still stuck in that kind of victim mentality. And I'm so glad that, I seen that, I kind of just drew on the stubbornness within me and this, fight that I've had my whole life to propel forward and, and just see life in a different way.
Thank you for sharing that, because it is really true that you can see life in a different way, and it's all about choices, but you do need to do some work on the trauma that you've suffered, and you have done that, and like you said, continue to work on that all the time, because it's not something that goes away instantly, and you can get triggered, and there is hard conversations like today that you have that can trigger you. And you would have been nervous coming on here. I'm always nervous talking about this book and the subject matter that it is, but it is something that I will continue to do for as long as I'm able to, because it is very important that we allow other women to see what's possible beyond the domestic abuse. And you are now living a wonderful life and helping other women to do the same, and I appreciate that so much. Chris has said over on the Amazon Live, you can jump on over there and grab a copy of our book, Hear Her Roar. And Chris is over there, and she has said, it's so important to tell someone that you trust if you are suffering abuse. Thank you so much for being courageous and sharing your story, Kiziah Jay. We need to learn to save ourselves. That's a great way to put it, isn't it? We do need to learn.
Yes, exactly. Instead of, seeking something from, external to ourselves, and realize that actually the power lies within ourselves. And if we think back to it, like a lot of people who have experienced adversity and a lot of challenges and trauma, you are so strong. Like, to have gone through all that, you are a really strong person, and so if you just like channel that strength that you've had to have your whole life and use that in a positive way, learn to, your life can change dramatically. It's like the sky is honestly the limit.
Yeah, it is. Totally the limit. Sorry, I didn't notice that Carly J is watching us, and she said, hey, lovelies. Thank you for sharing. It is so needed to be shown for others to understand deeper, and that is a very good point. Thank you, Carly, for being with us. I will ask you one last question, Kiziah Jay. Is there anything that you would like to share for those who are currently in a domestic abuse situation that you haven't already shared about, reaching out to someone? Is there something that you would like to share that allowed you to break free from this cycle?
I would like you to know that although it sometimes feels like you are stuck and you are trapped and you're never going to get out of it, that is not the truth. And that a different life is waiting for you, but you do have to take the first step and speak to someone, reach out, and and allow and accept someone to help you, because there's so much life waiting for you outside of the fear that you're probably living inside of.
So true. Thank you so much for being with me, Kiziah. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you again about this subject again soon.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brigid.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Our next guest, Chris Williams, is the host of a podcast that she has actually interviewed all of the authors on, and I do encourage you to check that out. And Live in the Visions is Chris's business, her tagline, and she is actually living the vision that she has enabled for herself and is creating a great space for women to actually go to online and in person in the future, not too far away in the future. And I look forward to you getting to know Chris a bit more. So, Chris, I welcome you to join us. Chris is a domestic violence recovery coach, personal development coach, survivor of domestic violence, and host of Live in the Visions podcast, where she works with survivors on domestic violence to educate, empower, and help women envision life without abuse and retake their life stories. Chris is passionate about her mission because as a survivor, she believes when women personify a deep sense of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-belief, they become unstoppable and have the courage to break the cycle. Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Your work in the world is definitely needed, and I'm so grateful that you're doing it. Thank you for sharing your story in our beautiful book, Hear Her Roar. Successful women who have experienced domestic abuse. And Chris, my first question to you is, you have come such a long way from where you experienced domestic abuse. How do you show other women that this is possible? I know that we can talk about it, but how do you show them that this is possible, to go from where they are today, where they think there is no escape, they think they deserve this life, they've chosen this life, this is what their lot is for. How do you move them from that into living their own vision?
Hi, Brigid. Thanks for having me. That's a great question. I show them, I think it's, if they're seeing me and how I've lived my life, it's showing them that it's possible. So I work through the steps of what I had to go through to get to where I am now. And so showing them, I don't just speak the language, I also show them. So sometimes you can tell people, you need to do this, 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 and this, but they don't quite understand it. So I try to show them of how to do things. So like you mentioned, live in the visions. I think that's really important as you're trying to heal from any type of abuse or trauma in your life, is really creating a vision of what you want your life to look like as you're healing, what it looks like in the future. And sometimes it's really hard to imagine a year from now, 2 years from now, 5, 10 years from now. So it's really focusing on what can you do today, even sometimes just this minute, to take that first step. So what does it look like to you if you're in a healthy relationship? What does it look like for you to have a positive personality? What does it look like for you to write down your goals, and how do you achieve them? So there's a lot of different steps to take to get to the healing process. And so I really try to show them just with conversations that I'm having, involving them in their healing process, doing videos on social media, writing this book, being a part of this book. So I think it's just really showing people that it is possible.
I like that. You say that there's, different avenues for different people to take, and that's so true, because not one shoe fits all of us. So it's a great, you're open to finding the solution for the individual.
Yes, yeah, because we're all different. We've all had different stories. We've all had different experiences. And so what I've gone through may not be exactly what someone else has gone through. And I may or may not be able to help them depending on what they've gone through, because I don't have that same experience. But I will definitely try to learn about what they've experienced and go through so that I can help them so they don't feel alone. But I can't, on some things, I don't have the story to share because I haven't done that. I haven't been through that same trauma as them. And so it really is important to find someone, if you're going to work with somebody like myself as a domestic violence recovery coach, or get work with an advocate, somebody that understands what you've gone through and can help you through that.
And Chris, sharing in the book, was this an easy process for you?
It was and it wasn't. So it's a two-part question. Writing my story actually flowed really easy. I think after you and I talked, the deadline was only like a week and a half to 2 weeks from the time that we talked. So it didn't leave me much time to write the story and the chapter. And once I sat down, it flowed pretty easily and naturally, because I have talked about it for the last several years and have worked through it. So it did. The story itself came easily, other than I only had 3,000 words to write almost a whole lifetime of abuse. So how do you narrow that down? And then the hardest part, and I don't know if hard is the right word, but the part that I didn't know or understand was the marketing part of it, and getting it all together and getting the book together. And then actually seeing it in print, like the first day that it arrived with all of our stories in it. I hadn't seen anybody else's stories. We had only talked through Messenger. None of us had talked in person or met or seen each other. So when the book actually arrived, I just cried. I was just like, it's such a powerful book, and such amazing group of women that got together and shared their stories. And so that was the most emotional part of writing the book. And then once the book was out, I kind of had a little bit of a moment of some fear and what was going to happen. And I'm putting my story out there for people to read, and we're here doing interviews and more interviews. And so it was a lot, but it's an experience I wouldn't take back for anything. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that you presented to all of us.
I think that it's really important that people understand that, we don't share our stories lightly. It's not something that we wanted to have as part of our lives, and that it has happened, but we choose to live differently now. So we want to show other women that is possible through sharing our own stories, that you can choose to live differently to how you experienced things in the past. Chris, you just mentioned there, a lifetime of abuse, and you had to fit it into 3,000 words. So I want people to understand that this is not the whole story. This isn't the only thing that we've gone through, or, there were good times in our lives that we haven't shared in this book. And it's not about that. It's about getting to the crux of the domestic abuse and allowing people to see that beyond domestic abuse, there is a better life, and you can choose that. You can pop over to Amazon Live TV and you can grab a copy. You can actually chat to us over there as well. We do have somebody who says, Diamond Handed says, I totally agree. And that would have been with Kiziah Jay, because I can see that it was 8 minutes ago and Chris hasn't been with me for that long. So Kiziah Jay closing comment in what she said. So thank you so much for that comment, Diamond Handed. We also have Kiziah Jay is now watching you on Facebook, and she said it's such a powerful book. For sure, it's like magic. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. It is a magical book in the way that it allows all of these women in this book to actually share that, you know, there is life beyond living what you're currently living. Do please reach out to us. Chris, you have set up something in the United States that is going to be accessible to people on a face-to-face level. And you're aiming for that to be, you have a very big vision for this, and I want you to share with everybody what it currently looks like and what it's going to look like in the future.
Are you talking about my my mountain retreat?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Didn't know if you were talking about that or my podcast. So I recently are getting very close to launching what's called Live in the Visions Mountain Retreat. And it is out of my home. I moved to, if you're from the United States, I live in Washington State in a small town called in Cleveland. We moved here about a year ago, and we moved to a mountain home. And so I am creating the space for guests to come and stay in our mountain home and to have, relax and enjoy our mountain view, the outdoors. But what I'm really focusing on is bringing women's retreats to this mountain home that we have. And so that could include, we could put on vision board classes, we can do bowl burning, we can do personal development classes. And so I'm just getting ready to roll that out in the next couple of days. I've already been posting a lot of information on my social media pages. So I really am a person that likes to bring people together, and I was trying to think of a way that I could incorporate personal development and allowing a safe place for women that are recovering from domestic violence, domestic abuse, to come and put on these retreats for them. So I'm really getting really excited about that.
It is very exciting. And I did say to you, tongue in cheek, do you need someone to come and test it for you? If it was easy for me to get back into this country, I would come and test it in a heartbeat, but it's not that easy for me right now.
Yes, I would love to have you.
Adaire has actually piped up and said, your home is absolutely gorgeous, Chris. She's been stalking you on Facebook too, like me. What an amazing place for people who need to heal to go to. So it is an amazing opportunity for people. And in the future, Chris, you've got this plan. You have a connection to horses, and you believe that horses are healing, and you have this plan to actually incorporate them into your healing center.
I would love to do that. Where I'm living currently, I don't have horses, but this is kind of like the first step into living my vision. So I would definitely like to, my next location is to also have horses. I spent a week last summer and actually leaving next month for another week at a horse ranch. And I can't tell you how emotionally connected and healing it was to spend that week unplugged with just horses 24/7. We rode them, and then when we weren't out riding, they roamed the property free. So they were in our backyard, right outside our cabin that we stayed in. And it was one of the most amazing trips I've ever taken. So when I came back, my vision, again, live in the visions, I'm talking about it to everybody because that's how it happens. I'm learning about it. I'm taking horseback riding lessons now. And how am I going to incorporate that into a mountain retreat or move it to a ranch and have horses and have a place where people can come and heal? Or if they don't have, any domestic violence abuse background, then just a place to come and relax and get close and feel that love. I mean, I know there's other horse people out there and they know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been around horses, just to stand next to them and feel the power of their heart and their feeling and how much they just connect with somebody. It's so powerful. So I really want to bring that to fruition someday. So if you know anybody in this universe here that has a connection to that, that's how it works. So I'm putting it out there in the universe. So please contact me.
Yeah, absolutely. Kiziah Jay has said this is absolutely incredible, Chris, life-changing. And that's what it's going to be for people, even from the mountain retreat right through to when you do incorporate the horses, because I know it's going to happen. You are a woman on a mission, and through your podcast, you are actually, you know, really living that vision and allowing people to see more into what it is like to take this opportunity and change your life. And you know, your podcast is incredible. I really do appreciate that you have interviewed the women from the book on your podcast. And I know that Joanne, who was in the book, interviewed you. And, you know, it's a great opportunity for people to get a little bit more insight into the actual chapters in the book. So jump on over to Amazon Live, grab a copy of your book, read the book, and then go look up Live in the Visions podcast, and you will actually get to hear from the authors individually and Chris diving deeper into their stories and a bit more about it. Thank you so much for being with us, Chris. I really do appreciate your time and the work that you're doing in the world. I'm so grateful you shared your story in the Hear Her Raw book, and glad that you took the opportunity.
Thank you, Brigid. It's been an amazing opportunity, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you and your vision of getting this book put together. And I still can't believe how we connected and how this all came together. So it's just been amazing. Thank you. Thanks
so much. I will talk to you soon. Our next guest is a woman who has moved herself from country to country. She is an incredible best-selling author, speaker, coach, and educator. Yvonne Mundih, I am not sure if I'm saying that correctly, Yvonne, you'll have to correct me if it's wrong, is the founder of the Building Hopes and Dreams Global LLC. Yvonne uses as her supports and empowers to transform victims of domestic abuse and rejection to understand that no matter what storms come their way, they can thrive and not just survive. Yvonne's passion is to empower and elevate the voices of women and children to understand that they are worthy. And she has let go of all of her cultural beliefs, and she is from Uganda and has moved to the USA, and I'd like to welcome Yvonne to join us. Yvonne's story goes much deeper than what she's shared in the book as well, like most people. Hello, Yvonne. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me, Brigid. Thank you so much.
Yvonne, the last time we spoke, you were talking about, you know, in your culture, women are seen as second grade, and, you know, education for women is put down to the bottom of the priorities list, and women are put to the bottom of the priorities list. And you changed that in your culture, in your village. People actually supported you to get your education, and you were seen as a leader in this way. And you've now moved to the USA, where you I'm not sure how long you've been living in the USA for. How long's that been?
My son is going to be 21 in 2 weeks' time. I've been here for about 22 years. I came here when I was 22.
Yeah, which is very young for a woman from your cultural background to move to the United States. And your village actually supported you to do that. But what I wanted to ask you was, how do you show up as that leader when there is so much telling you in your society and your culture that this is not for you?
Thank you so much for that question. You know, I'm so grateful for this moment, because as I continue to really, really help that village that helped me, it was hard, but with the support of my grandmother, because coming from almost a generation of 3 young girls who were just given away in marriage at an incredibly young age, my grandmother 9, my mother 15, and me was forced into marriage at the age of 11. But my grandmother, seeing what a lot of women went through, she lived a very good life. But seeing what a lot of women were going through, young girls who were forced into marriage, especially my mother, who could not defend herself from abuse. She was bent that she would rather die than to see me marry. And so together with my mother and some parents of the village came together to educate me. They came because I was so fascinated. I wanted to know how these people who went to school, they were walking in a very elegant way. They were speaking so elegantly. And I thought, you know what, there is something good in that. And I want that too. And so I was determined to educate myself. And so that is how it began.
It's a beautiful way to, start a life of leadership. And you have become not only a mother to your own children, but a mother to some of your family members' children as well. Can you share with everybody why this came about?
Sure. As an 11-year-old being forced into marriage and seeing that your grandmother came from the same background, your mother came from the same background, my determination was trying to change the way the culture viewed the woman. I was determined to change that because the woman was relegated to the background, to the status of just being a mother, giving birth to children, and being in the kitchen and also satisfying the men. I was bent on changing that, seeing what by the time I was about 15 years old, I had gone through a lot just because I refused to get married at the age of 11. At one point, I was even sent to live in the bush among animals. And I lived in that bush with all the fear, with all the anxiety, and I even attempted suicide in that bush. But since I did not die, something came to me and said, it wasn't my life to take. At a very young age, I had learned a lot of things that helped me along. And I became an adult even before I became one. I had to do large-scale gardening, which is farming for a child. I had to weed grass. I had to do whatever it took me to do in order to educate myself. I began to organize community gatherings for young girls to come together, to volunteer, to do whatever it took us to do to help in the community, to help even the elderly, to fetch firewood and carry on our heads, to fetch water, just to make sure that we change that process. And today, Brigid, you won't believe it. That village looks up to me as we speak. I have sent some books to that village, hear her roar, so that they can begin to read, to know that they are not alone and they can change their situation if they are determined to do it. When I was little, I saw the very first time I saw this movie from the only TV owner in the village who was using generator. We didn't have electricity. And I don't know, maybe God sent me there. I watched it. It talked about freedom and success in the United States of America. Now I became so obsessed. I said, I want to walk to America. I didn't know that I cannot walk there. So my grandmother looked at me and said, my granddaughter, you see that bird flying in the sky? That bird is going to take you to the United States. And I believed her, and I thought the bird was going to carry me to the United States. I was only 9. And so for somehow I am now in the United States where I have that choice, that freedom to share my story, a story that I couldn't have otherwise shared in that village. Because right now, as we speak, there are some people who are against me for even attempting to share that story. But I am bent on doing it. I am building an academy now that will begin to change those things for women, teens, and adolescent girls.
Absolutely, it will. And changing the perspective of the men, being able to see your success and see that you can choose a different way to live. They, may change their perspective as well. I just want to read some comments out. Adaire is on Facebook saying, what courage, Yvonne. Breaking the cultural bonds is incredibly difficult. So thank you for sharing that. Adaire, it is such a incredible way to do it. You're making generational change, so very courageous. And another says, such a powerful story, Yvonne, and helping the other women in the villages will save lives. And I'm very proud that you shared that, you know, what you're doing and enabling them to be educated in a way that is different to going through the education system. And, you know, by doing, they're seeing that you are, like Chris's catchphrase, living your vision, and you are still working hard at that. And, you know, you're still working your way to the top, but you're getting there. I remember when you came to me, you actually said, you know, we need this story to be heard around the world and not just in this book. And that's what we're doing now. So it is being heard around the world. I want to read the opening to your chapter, which is called Unique Life Story. It was many years ago. It seems so fresh within me, like a new wound just opened up. Writing this chapter has reignited in me the sleeping dog that lay. This chapter is the beginning of so many years and layers of pain that have over the years sought for that voice, pen and paper of expression to continue to heal and to heal others. A grandmother's mantle. No matter life circumstances, life is a continuous fight to conquer and to build on new territories for the one who dares to say, I can and I will. Use your inner gifts to build monuments in places where stars are born out of scars. That phrase, that stars are born out of scars, can you elaborate on that for everyone? Because I know that you have a unique way of expressing this.
Yes, sure, certainly. Thank you so much. Oh, that expression, that stars are being born out of scars. If considering my background, considering what I have gone through, and considering everything that surrounded me before I got to this point, if you look all over my body from abuse, I have scars. Even in my head, everywhere, I have scars all over my body. And it just seems as though when you are abused as a child, you gravitate towards men that will abuse you. I wasn't just abused as a child, I was also abused as an adult. I got into 2 marriages within 5 years, and I realized that they were the carbon print of my father. And I had to get out. And I had to take that determination to say, me first. I have to love myself. When I love myself and I know that I am valuable, then I can easily transform and help other young girls and women that are suffering out there. So that phrase is to let the world, and both women and adolescent girls, to know that no person has ever been truly, truly happy. No successful person has been ever be truly happy without going through some difficulties in their lives. So when you go through difficulties, that is not the end of you. I went through a lot for any child to have been put through, but I used those scars to build monuments in places where stars are being born out of scars. I am a star right now. The opportunity that I'm having right now with you, by being in that book, Hear Her Roar, that is a dream come true. I have been working for all my life to try to see how I can change that village. And I know as I interview people all over the world, I do research, there are other areas. Even right here in the United States, women still go through a lot. And together, we can change that. That is why I phrase it, stars are being born out of scars. Because if you look around, those who really succeed in life are those who have gone through a lot. And with determination, they decided that they are going to succeed, and they did it.
Yes, I so agree with you. So thank you, Yvonne, for sharing that with the world. It is, Chris has said education is key to breaking the cycle, and Adaire agrees, Chris, that the right education is key, and Chris loves that stars have been born out of scars. They're over on Amazon Live TV, where you can go and you can grab a copy of the book and read Yvonne's story along with the other women in the book, and really do dive deep into where we have come from, what we have experienced, and then where we are today, and how we have changed our trajectory, and chosen the life that we wanted to live, instead of living in that victim mode and allowing ourselves to go down that path. We have really changed what we are doing in our lives and where we are going. Yvonne, you are now an international speaker. You spoke on the stage in France. You speak quite often in different areas, and you're a multiple published author. Can you share with us, when you speak on stage, what is the topics that you cover?
I come with a variety of topics. The number one topic that I spoke of was childhood marriage. I talk about that because we need to use education. Education is the number one tool or weapon that we can all use to help to change some of those paradigms and cultures that have been embedded into young girls and women, that you have to do as they tell you. But I say you have to do as your heart and your mind tells you. So child marriage, I wrote a lot about educating the female child. And that is what I am doing. And I also talk about the determination. When you are determined, no matter what people say about you, no matter what names they call me a lot of names. They call me Margaret Thatcher. They call me the Iron Lady who is trying to change things. Those things should not matter. You got to look and put your mind and focus on where you are going. Think about where you've come from, where you are today, and where you want to be tomorrow, and what you want to do to impact the lives of other people, not just yours. For me, look at the community that came together to educate me. So I also talk about attitude of gratitude. Me and you are here today because somebody paved the way for us. I am speaking here today because you chose me to be in this book. This is something that I wouldn't have done by myself. I dreamt of it, but I didn't know how. But you paved the way for me, plus the other women. We worked together, and here we are with this masterpiece that is going to change so many lives in the world. It's already in Cameroon. I've sent 5 copies there. And I plan to build a physical school with a library and a supper table so that kids can come and do research and read and study and then eat and then go home and sleep without bothering their parents. And so attitude of gratitude is so important. You are speaking from the other end of the world. We've never met physically, but I'm going to meet with you someday. You paved the way for me. That is what we all should do to help others. Encourage those who are still stuck, thinking that, oh, if I say this, they will kill me. The fear and the shame, the guilt. We need to do away with all those things. So I talk on a variety of topics just to encourage women and adolescent girls that have suffered and experienced domestic abuse to rise up and know that they are not in this alone. I was a child. And if I can make it, they too can make it.
Absolutely, they can. And Yvonne, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is currently sitting in domestic abuse and they're watching this and they're thinking, well, I can't change? What would be the one piece of advice that you would give them?
The one piece of advice that I would give them is that step up, ask for help. Don't get stuck, but you have to be determined in your mind that you want to change your situation and start looking for help. If you do not look for that help, you will stay in your situation. Don't listen to any paradigm that people put in your head, because that situation can change.
Yes, it can. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with me, Yvonne. I really appreciate your time. I could talk to you for hours. We must do this again. I really appreciate that you had some technical difficulties the first time we were going to have you on, and that you made it today. Grateful that you've made the time available, and thank you.
And thank you so much, Brigid. Thank you so much. I'm going to set a personal appointment to meet with you. But thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Talk to you soon, Yvonne. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. I love you.
I really encourage everybody to grab a copy of this book. If you don't feel that it's necessary for you to read it, please gift it to a local organisation that helps women who are suffering from domestic abuse. So far to date, I am up to 121 copies that I have gifted to services that help women in domestic abuse situations for themselves and their children. And I continue to do that as soon as copies are sold and some money pops into my bank account from sales of this book from Amazon. I do purchase more copies and send them out to people. So please do continue to buy copies of the book. And if you don't feel it's necessary for you, as I said, gift it to others. We'll be back again next in a fortnight's time. We're going to move to fortnightly authors in the spotlight, and we'll be back in a fortnight's time with some more authors from the Art of Grace Authors Hub. I want to thank Adaire Palmer, who is our producer today, and MyTimeTV.live. For everybody who's viewing this live and for those who watch on the replay, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye.